Hi everyone, welcome back to What the FinTech, your FinTech Feel Good show. What the FinTech is a news and information platforms covering the latest FinTech development in Hong Kong, China, Singapore, and Asia. Join us every week for an engaging conversation with various Asian FinTech figures to discuss about entrepreneurships, emerging technology, customer engagement, and partnership. Before starting this interview, feel free to share your question in the comment sections and give a like and share with your friends. And today we have Amy from Fireblocks. How are you, Amy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm very exciting to see you at the FinTech Week in Hong Kong. I didn't see you for a while, but welcome back here.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like I'm one of those people who had sold Hong Kong on the ultimate bottom, moved in April this year to Singapore. Do not regret my decisions, but definitely can see that Hong Kong is back and there's a lot of excitement happening.
And I saw you over the last year in few events in Singapore as
That's
well.
right.
So it's like I see you every 6 months, something like
Yeah,
that.
pretty much. Yeah.
Amy, the first question I always ask here is like, can you introduce yourself? What are you doing, and how did you come to become a fintech influencer, salesperson, and working on the digital assets environment?
Sure. So I currently lead sales for Fireblocks here in APAC. I joined Fireblocks 4 years ago, really just right before COVID happened. And my really journey into crypto started back in 2017, 2018, where I took a break from my finance career. I was a trader before, and I noticed a lot of my trader friends were getting involved in trading Bitcoin, set up their own fund. And I joined a startup at that time to learn a few skills. And pretty quickly, I realized for me, I really enjoy working on the technology aspect when it comes to blockchain, not just purely on the trading side. So then when I was looking for a different change in my career, I called a contact of mine in Israel and asked them, I want to join a really cool startup that's working on blockchain. Who should I work with? And he introduced me to Michael Shalov and led me to Fireblocks.
Some people knows about Fireblocks. I saw like a lot of content about it. But can you give us a kind of overview of what you are doing and what is the main missions you try to, not mission, but problems you try to solve in
Yeah.
the industry?
For sure. I mean, I think if you look at where we started back in 2019, at that time, the biggest challenge was how do you have a wallet that is very secure but highly available, right? And then really the early day use cases we helped resolve were for the brokerages, the OTC providers, people that needed on-demand access to liquidity into their crypto, but do not want to leverage a cold wallet solution, but want equal level security. So that's kind of where our journey started. From there, we actually realized the third party attackers are obviously dangerous, right? And we should always be aware of them. But actually, when it comes to bearer instruments like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and crypto in general, other attack vectors like internal control, right? Like how do I scale a team to institutions with 100 people working on my company, but make sure that the new developer I just hired doesn't end up stealing all the crypto assets I manage for myself on behalf of my clients. So then it started around like operational tooling and governance and different sets of solutions we're building on top. And then we also realized the third attack vectors were fat fingers, right? These are irreversible bearer instruments. And we recognize that every trader don't want to admit this to you, but I promise you, majority of people who traded a lot have done this where they send assets to the wrong place and they're like, oh no, or more commonly they send the wrong asset to the wrong chain, right? So these are really common human errors that folks experience. So in that, we start building, we'll call it Fireblocks network and operational tooling that we have today. So that takes us to like 2021. Then we start building like scalable solutions for exchanges, like retail platforms. How do you manage millions of wallets at a time? Make sure that these wallets are 24/7 available with high uptime. And then finally, looking to where we are now, I would say, working with corporates and banks and doing tokenization and the different use cases are kind of rounding out what Fireblocks is trying to address today.
Oh, this is a perfect opportunity for me to ask you my next question about the security.
Sure.
I saw you a couple of times speaking about security on stage, and security is a paramount when it comes to digital assets. So how does Fireblocks ensure the security of its client transactions and storage?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with how do you sign a transaction, right? When you're looking at a hot or warm wallet that is permanent online, our first design principle was distribution. We think that having a single key in a cloud environment poses really single point of failure risk. So we built out an innovated a signing algorithm called multi-party computation, or MPCCMP now, and that's really the basis of where Fireblocks started, right? Then in addition to that, this keys needs to be hardware protected. So we ended up securing these keys in, Intel SGX, or if you want to use AWS Nitro, or if you want to do single key signing with HSMs, you can do all those hardware choice as well. And then finally, I think I mentioned earlier, the additional security is really just the operational side of things. How do you protect your workflows? Usually for institutions, they have really complex approval structures to prevent internal fraud, and also the human error element around fat finger and so on and so forth.
Perfect. If I can ask you, can you work through the journey and the different step of a transaction on Fireblocks platforms from
Sure.
initiation to, let's say, completion?
Sure. So it starts usually with where you like to initiate. And you really have two options. You can either do it manually via the front end, or you could do it fully by API, right? And that initiation creates a transaction. And then it goes into the approval policy layer where you can check against things like additional risk control, operational control, different management, I guess, controlling elements within your organization. They all need to get the transaction that will happen on the mobile device. It will show the details of transaction, and then they will approve those transactions. And then you can build in additional elements, like we also have a compliance tooling. So KYT with chain analysis and elliptic to screen these transactions on the way in and out. And then it goes into the actual signing, which then is the piece that gets broadcast onto the blockchain afterwards. And that signing element is where you'll get the multi-party computation, where the keys that is on your end is communicating with the two keys on the Fireblocks side.
Okay, interesting. I also see that you're creating scalable platforms, right? So what are the biggest challenges that come when you are facing the secure and scalable infrastructure for digital assets?
Yeah, I mean, I think people think that blockchains are easy to deal with. It's not, right? Like, I think people have this mentality that Bitcoin is a standard that everybody runs. But once you get out of the top 5 coins and move into some of the other blockchains, from a scalability perspective, just the node infrastructure and the blockchain broadcasting piece, it's a lot of work that we as a wallet provider needs to help ensure our clients, because it doesn't really matter to them whether it is a blockchain issue or a Fireblocks challenge. The ultimate end user experience that can now send transactions, right? So a big part of it from a scalability perspective is making sure that from the blockchain that we do support, we support it at a level and have the stability that we need. Then it comes to like, how do you manage like millions of wallets from a creation perspective and at scale? So a big thing that really helped propel us onto, when it comes to like retail platform perspective, was MPC. You can create really infinite number of wallets without having to pay additional gas fees, right? So if you think about how a smart contract wallet works, which, if you think of outside of the Bitcoin derivatives and Bitcoin themselves, all the EVM compatible ones, if you want to distribute the controls of your wallet, you need to go build a smart contract, right? And that costs gas, and it takes a lot of time and money to manage ultimately. So from a technology perspective, because you can derive unique child addresses using MPC, you can really scale that out in a pretty easy way. And then finally, it's things really that's, I would say, very traditional as any technology platform needs to think about, which is like uptime and server availabilities and, disaster recovery processes and things like that.
You and me, we are passionate about one subject, is also innovation.
Yes.
And crypto goes, in terms of speed of innovation and new product coming on the market for crypto and blockchain, the pace is incredible. So how do you make sure that Fireblocks stay ahead compared to the competitors, and also complying also with the regulation and compliance of financial institutions and in countries?
For sure. I think when it comes to how do we stay ahead, honestly, it's speaking to our customers, right? I think we are in a really fortunate position where now we have 1,800 customers globally, and they're doing all kinds of different exciting things, right? We've got clients on our platform who, as I call it, the 2 men and women in a garage trading millions of crypto, all the way to some of the largest institutions in the traditional finance space, and everybody in between, with corporates selling toothpaste and, coffee companies and so on and so forth, right? And when we speak to them and get an understanding of what are they looking to accomplish in this Web3 space, they give us the design specs on where we need to go. So, for example, I always give this really exciting conversation. We actually supported like DeFi in the middle of 2020. right? And when I first joined Fireblocks, we already had like a DeFi solution. But I gotta be honest, if you look up like Fireblocks early interviews about our DeFi product, you'll see our clients being like, this stuff DeFi is pretty cool, but like not much volume on it. The yield's quite low, not very excited, right? And then lo and behold, 2021, the whole thing takes off. And we're one of the first providers that had a really robust DeFi wallet solution. So a lot of the innovation, us as a product build, come from our clients who are out there either finding ways to generate alpha, finding ways to deploy new use cases, and coming to us and tell us, hey, like I need these sets of tools to help me to be successful. Could you please build them? So that's kind of on the innovation side. The other aspect I would say from a regulation side, really just education, right? I think a lot of times regulators are not technologists. Okay, their main job is to learn, to communicate, and our main job is to provide that education and share with them what we see on the field, and take that patience required in engaging with them. So I think a lot of times for us, especially as a technology provider, where we typically are not regulated in most jurisdictions, we even need to take a step further to make that education happen, so that when our clients are going into these regulators to apply for licenses using our technology, the regulators are familiar with MPC, they're familiar with our hardware choices, they know how clients could use our software to enforce and apply their regulatory required operational control, and so on and so forth. So I would say on that front, it's really just, yeah, over communication and constant education.
I also saw a couple of things about insurance when I was preparing this interview with you. My question would be like, because this was a post, the website, everything.
Sure.
My question would be like, how do you approach the topic of insurance in the digital asset space today?
It's I think insurance is a really tricky topic, right? Because the reality is people think of insurance as this like standardized thing. It's not. You can have an insurance policies, and depending on what you put on the bylines and the details, it protects so many things, and it also protects so little things, right? So I think a blanket statement of, you know, you need to get insurance for your wallets, it's not sufficient enough, because you can say, okay, fine, I have insurance, but I have already subtracted the fraudulent aspect of my wallet. Like if that CEO goes missing, or the CEO decides to, take control of these assets that is not covered under my insurance policies, right? Like there's all these, for example, a lot of insurance we call species insurance. They really just protect the hardware that your key sits in. And it's only when the material and the hardware gets destroyed, then the insurance policy is covered. But what about like when I'm transferring, right? Like what about the other attack vectors that you're thinking through? And really from a capacity perspective, the insurance industry today, mostly available on offer is cold storage species insurance. Anything outside of that is really small amount of capacity where the insurers feel comfortable in offering those. So yes, I think insurance is great because it really help you to mitigate some of the risks that are really unique to blockchain, because there's nobody to bail you out, right? These are bearer instruments. If you lose the Bitcoin, Uncle Sam can come and print more Bitcoin for you, right? So there is that element of irreversibility that we have to think about that's a little bit different than managing fiat cash. But at the same time, just because you have insurance doesn't mean that your solution is super secure. So there's still this element, I would say, around learning what is the best technology and how do you apply them, and how do you apply them in a way that allows you to scale your business in a really successful way. And then simply saying, hey, like I'm going to use a solution because they got XYZ insurance. I think the industry has really moved on from that being a norm, right? And they are now getting much smarter in looking into what's available out there.
I also saw that Fireblocks is connected to a multiple of blockchain
Correct.
platforms. So how do you operate the interoperability between the blockchain, and can you transfer the different asset to different blockchain and protocols?
Yeah. So interoperability is a little bit challenging for us. The reason why that is because we're a self-custody platform, and we don't really and can provide like bridging services if they're not on chain available. right? So for example, how our clients will look to bridge between the different EVMs blockchains, they will use, different bridges on any DeFi platforms they can use to do that, right? So that's one aspect of it, across the kind of layer ones, so to speak. And then if you're trying to do that across the layer ones that don't speak to each other, i.e. like the non-EVMs and the EVMs, then it's really difficult, even for us to help solve that problem, because there's really no blockchain solution that really does that without an intermediary sitting in the middle, wrapping around wrapping assets. We're looking at things around like the layer twos to layer ones now. So, obviously the hot topic of these days is like ZK rollups and ZK Sync and ZK EVM, and looking at ways that you can run kind of somewhat private node infrastructure as a part of the main blockchain. So we already support the ZK EVMs. So those type of kind of on and off opportunity we could support.
I would like to come back a bit earlier on this interview. You
Mhm.
mentioned about DeFi as well.
Mhm.
And I saw on the website, DeFi is a part of what
Sure.
you're serving right now. So how do you facilitate, I won't say facilitate, but ensure the accountability about Fireblocks working with DeFi and emerging companies?
Meaning what sense? Like,
Especially on the emerging DeFi protocols, because we see a lot of new protocols coming
That's right.
on the market.
Yeah.
And I see also that Fireblocks is working with them.
That's right. Yeah. So I think on our end, it's quite simple. If you're building on an EVM compatible blockchain, and if your DeFi platform is built on top of EVM compatible blockchain, it is very simple for us to support you and your native assets. Okay. And in addition to that, if you support either MetaMask Institutional or Wallet Connect as the bridging layer, then all of our customers actually could connect with your DeFi platform immediately. It's funny because I was just talking to someone today. Like our old DeFi dashboard used to have these like logos of DeFi platforms on there. It was since then we've taken it off and it had a different UI. But people used to come and ask us like, "Hey, can we like move our DeFi platform upper on the list that's like automatically show on your platform on Fireblocks?" And we were just like, "Yeah, but." We literally just show this alphabetical. This is like no design choice to this. It's not like we're trying to promote certain DeFi platform or not. It's literally we just put a bunch of logos up and it's like looked at in one page. But yeah, like DeFi platforms, if Wallet Connect, any of our customers can connect to today.
Another thing I saw about Fireblocks and the communication done in the past, it's like you're working with a lot of institutional.
That's right.
And you give them access to staking and farming,
Mhm.
right? So how do you help them to do this?
So I think farming is a little bit different. I think institutions, depending on like what you consider as institution, there was a period in 2021 when the yield farming hype was crazy, that we had large asset managers that were looking to find ways to interact, right, and earn those yields. And obviously, the big problem for them was that they needed and can only participate in KYC pool, right? So at that time, Aave was a super hot platform. So we actually had the ability and to add a permission Aave pool, right? So that was a product we launched. Sadly, liquidity on that front has really dried, and then it really didn't take off. But that as a principle, I would say, is where institutions are looking to take DeFi to, because really, I think from a counterparty risk perspective, they really need to know like who is in those liquidity pools. They have to permission those folks. They want to make sure that you're institutional as well. They want to make sure that you've been KYC'd, and that like permission pool, DeFi pool is super important for institutions to properly get involved. And then from a tooling perspective, we also spent a lot of time in the last 3 years to make sure that the policy control that we have for your CeFi activity, so to speak, is same for your DeFi activity. And then really the big piece is decoding, right? I do smart contract decoding at scale so you can apply, unit level, and you decide something and say, hey, like maybe I want to set a control when I stake something. The control is X. But if I want to just go and unstake it, then the control is Y, right? So having that like smart contract detail and the context is really helpful for institutional investors as they interact with DeFi protocols and DeFi platforms, because they really need to have that same level of control that they do in their normal kind of trading operations. So those are more on like the DeFi trading side. I would say staking alone is getting some interest, right? Like ETH staking, Solana staking, those two topics for sure. And really usually in those cases, just like, I wouldn't call them like full institutions. They're more like long-term ETH holders are quite interested in those products.
If I come back to a more vanilla industry, I would say traditional banking and insurance, they may work with you as well. So how Fireblocks, integrate with traditional finance systems like bankers and insurance, and help them to look after digital assets to serve their customer?
Yeah. So, I mean, from a financial institutions perspective, really we look at, I think about one aspect is you got the banks, right? You got the global significant banks and then the domestically significant banks across the world. And really they're looking at two use cases today. One is custody. So that really started the journey for these banks who actually even during 2021 and 2020 wanted to launch like trading businesses, and they know they want to launch or offer Bitcoin brokerage. They had to figure out the underlying custody solution, right? So custody was one aspect of it. And then the second aspect really was tokenization. And the way we work with them is not only do we scale out the security that we have on the custody side, you can also take those into your tokenization workflows, right? You can have smart contract workflows that has multi-level approvals. You can set up really interesting I would say control elements, but also design a lot of this stuff in smart contracts. So today we actually have something like, I think we're workshopping this name at the moment, but effectively it's like a marketplace that allows, different smart contract designers or smart contract platform to be listed on Fireblocks, right? So we have our own smart contract build, but we also have like Bitbonds and the tokenies, and also like a bespoke smart contract build team that we can help clients to design and build out what they needed to do. And then really from the insurance side, we don't with too many insurance, but we have had one use case that came through recently where an insurer is looking to effectively build like a loyalty style, right, with their retail users and help them to use blockchain to collect data a little bit better to give them better access to insurance.
Okay. One of my questions was to ask you also about the success story or use case that Fireblocks help to significantly impact a client's business operation.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think the number one that I would also highlight is keep everybody safe would be really important. Success case. No, but a few ones. So I think one that I would like to call out is we have a few banking clients in Australia. And if you work with banks, like incredibly difficult organizations to navigate, to build within. And sometimes what we really feel proud about with our clients like ANZ, for example, we took them from zero to called zero to hero in less than 4 months, right? So effectively, they went from no infrastructure in place to infrastructure deployed and minted on a public blockchain in a mainnet setting in 4 months' time. And that's something to us was something we felt really quite proud of, to mobilize a team together to help them to resolve that. The other use case I also like to call out is the one that's probably really recent. We started working with the e-commerce company in India called Flipkart. They are like the Amazons, right, of India. And their use case is super interesting. They started with a simple idea of building a loyalty program that give their users like airdropped, a bunch of NFTs into their wallets, right? And if you have those NFTs, you can then go and claim it to get a discount on a mobile phone. Okay. And when they first launched, it was, I think like 30 or 40,000 claimed, and of those 30 or 40,000 NFTs, 70 or 75% of them end up buying a phone, which is pretty cool. And then they start building other use cases on top. They start doing like a Women's Day campaign. They ended up doing a partnership, and they have like this called the Billion Day sale that's going on right now recently. And you can see in their activities and the way we look at like success is just like wallets. Right. And that was super exciting for us to see them growing, expanding their use cases, running multiple campaigns, and building upon their existing base level infrastructure and working with us during that process to make it very successful. So I have a case study out on this you can find on our website. But from my perspective, that was really like an aha moment for me this year, where I was like, wow, like these corporates are actually doing something real in a Web3 meaningful way. Like these are like real impact, real projects. I obviously read about Starbucks and how successful they were and their Web3 strategy, but this is like something we saw from zero to now, and that was something we feel really, really proud of.
Perfect.
Mhm.
We spoke about a lot about the past, about the present, but if we need to speak about the future, are you excited about any new services or features that you will develop on Fireblocks?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because we just sent out our like focus document last night. Like our CEO sent it out, and you look at the focus document and what we're trying to do in the next like 4 to 12 months. I would say, it really is a three segments. One is how do we continue to service our core market, which is the crypto trading community, right? So the big one that's really getting everybody excited about is this off-exchange product that we're rolling out later on this month. And that is a solution that allows folks to trade with exchanges by leaving assets within their own wallets, right? But unlike our custodial partners out there that may have a similar solution, but them being the custodian, in our setup, it's still a self-custody solution. The customer is facing directly with the exchange and the assets being locked in their wallets. And we're using technology to eliminate a lot of the risk that comes from leaving your assets on exchange, for example. So that's something I'm really excited about. And then the other thing I think I mentioned earlier around like the Web3 trends we're seeing, like really unique loyalty and Web3 use cases coming in and being rolled out into market.
Mhm.
And then finally, I would say on the financial services side, the hot topic of the season is stablecoins. I think every country now has got some sort of CBDC projects or CBDC initiatives, CBDC with stablecoin initiatives. I think the tokenization of money and purpose-bound money or any variations of cash money dollar value in your bank accounts is where a lot of the exciting things is happening. And then we'd love to see how we can support those.
Um, so you spoke about tokenization
Mhm.
here. If we speak about tokenization of assets or NFT,
Mm.
what is the role of Fireblocks in this kind of assets here?
So one is obviously the crew. So there's three parts, right? One is smart contract deployment. Okay, so if you want to have a really secure wallet that help you to initially manage deployment of that smart contract, we can help you do that. The second piece is then smart contract management, right? So once you deploy the smart contract, you will do something, right? Mint and burn, or you have like unique smart contract functionalities that you have built in already. Your wallet needs to be able to make those contract calls and then apply a control on the back of that. That's something we can help you support as well. Finally, obviously, is the storage element, right? If you want to build out a NFT marketplace, whether you want to do a centralized or decentralized, we can help you to manage that wallet infrastructure as well. So Fireblocks, everybody knows that we are a self-custody solution, but we call it the direct wallet access, right? We also have a non-custodial wallet where effectively companies can build their own wallet on top of the Fireblocks infrastructure and offer these wallet services to their clients, right? And these NCW is really the hot topic these days as well. And yeah, like we just rolled that out maybe 2 months ago in September and beginning a lot of conversation with our clients because pretty much people are realizing that in the Web3 world, if you own the wallet, you own the whole entire user experience, and that becomes the gateway. And if you're a large brand, whether you're our existing retail platform or a retail exchange, whoever, like the second you want to own that user experience, you now think about owning a wallet first. And that's been a lot of the driver behind folks getting involved in NCW.
Perfect. I think on this interview, we spoke about the products you are doing, the problem of the industry, the trends, what we see in the future. I just want to ask you another question is like, did I miss something?
No,
do we have covered everything here?
no, this is good.
Perfect. So I think we are very close to this end of this interview
Okay.
because we are time limited,
Okay.
unfortunately. But do you have like any piece of advice you would like to share with anyone listening to this podcast or watching this video?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, what's really helped me in communicating with clients, working with clients, and ultimately working with Fireblocks is just try to understand what is the customer's use case and how do they plan on monetizing it. Like, are you here to make revenue, save costs, build more print transparency, like whatever the key business objectives that you have, you'd be surprised how many times I have a conversation with a client and ask them point blank, like, what are your business objectives doing this, right? And I ask the question, hey, you're super successful in Web 2. Why are you going to Web 3? Talk to me through this thought process. And while you have that conversation, either they recognize that, like, I'm actually not really serious about what I want to do in Web 3, or they are very serious and they share with you what are the key business goals are. And then you figure out, like, is blockchain the right technology to do what you want to do? Amount of times, like we go in, we get a phone call and a client goes, I want to do this. And then the conclusion you draw in the end is actually you probably just want to digitize whatever database you have. It doesn't need to be on the blockchain. And usually in that conversation, I realized once you start clarifying what is the business objective, what are they trying to do? And then from there, figuring out what sort of technology solution that you want to apply to support those business goals, right? And then I think we can have a really mature and very productive conversation to help these corporates and banks and trading firms and whomever to figure out, what sort of blockchain tech is right for them.
Thank you very much. And where people can learn more about you or about the company?
Very easy. LinkedIn me. Amy Zhang or fireblocks.com. I think we're .com. I'm pretty sure we're blocks.com.
To be this, right?
So you can find out more about us there. Yes.
Or people can follow you on the X, Twitter, or anything?
I am not a Twitter person. I'm a
Okay.
Twitter lurker. I watch other people's tweets. I do not contribute anything. I'm a LinkedIn gal. Or if you want to find me on Telegram, it's very easy to find me on Telegram. So
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for coming today. It was a great pleasure to have you here.
Of course.
Thank you again for accepting this
Of
interview.
course. Thank you so much for having me.
Have a nice day.
You too. Bye.